Hey guys! So we left Mary out in the gardens with a gardener that she's just met and their little Robin, who is making both of them quite happy, even though they're both kind of grumpy people. The Robin hopped about busily pecking the soil and now and then stopped and looked at them a little. Mary thought his black dewdrop eyes gazed at her with great curiosity. It really seemed as if he were finding out all about her. The strange feeling in her heart increased. "Where did the rest of the brood fly to?" she asked. "There's no knowing. The old ones turn 'em out of their nest and make 'em fly, and they're scattered before you know it. This one was a knowing one, and he knew he was lonely." Mistress Mary went a step nearer to the Robin and looked at him very hard. "I'm lonely," she said. She had not known before that this was one of the things which made her feel sour and cross. She seemed to find it out when the Robin looked at her, and she looked at the Robin. The old gardener pushed his cap back on his bald head and stared at her a minute. "Art thou the little wench from India?" he asked. Mary nodded. "Then no wonder thou'rt lonely. Thou'lt be lonelier before thou's done," he said. He began to dig again, driving his spade deep into the rich black garden soil, while the Robin hopped about very busily employed. "What is your name?" Mary inquired. He stood up to answer her. "Ben Weatherstaff," he answered, and then he added with a surly chuckle, "I'm lonely myself except when he's with me." He jerked his thumb toward the Robin. "He's the only friend I got." "I have no friends at all," said Mary. "I never had. My ayah didn't like me, and I never played with anyone." It is a Yorkshire habit to say what you think with blunt frankness, and old Ben Weatherstaff was a Yorkshire moorman. "Then thou and me are a good bit alike," he said. "We was wove out of the same cloth. Neither of us is good to look at, and we're both of us as sour as we look. We got the same nasty tempers, both of us, I'll warrant." This was plain speaking, and Mary Lennox had never heard the truth about herself in her life. Servants bowed, Servants always bowed and agreed, whatever you did. She had never thought much about her looks, but she wondered if she was as unattractive as Ben Weatherstaff, and she also wondered if she looked as sour as he had looked before the Robin came. She actually began to wonder also if she was nasty-tempered. She felt uncomfortable. Suddenly, a clear, rippling little sound broke out near her, and she turned around. She was standing a few feet from a young apple tree, and the Robin had flown to one of its branches and had burst out into a scrap of a song. Ben Weatherstaff laughed outright. "What did he do that for?" asked Mary. "He's made up his mind to make friends with thee," replied Ben. "Dang me if he hasn't took a fancy to thee." "To me?" said Mary, and she moved towards the little tree softly and looked up. "Would you make friends with me?" she said to the Robin, just as if she were speaking to a person. "Would you?" And she did not say it either in her hard little voice or in her imperious voice, but in a tone so soft and eager and coaxing that Ben Weatherstaff was as surprised as he had been when she heard him whistle. "Why," he cried out, "thou said that as nice and human as if thou was a real child instead of a sharp old woman. Thou said it almost like Dickon talks to his wild things on the moor." "Do you know Dickon?" Mary asked, turning round rather in a hurry. "Everybody knows him. Dickon's wandering about everywhere. The very blackberries and heatherbells knows him. I warrant the foxes shows him where their cubs lies, and the skylarks doesn't hide their nests from him." Mary would have liked to ask them more questions. She was almost as curious about Dickon as she was about the deserted garden. But just that moment the Robin, who had ended his song, gave a little shake of his wings, spread them, and flew away. He had made his visit and had other things to do. "He's flown over the wall!" Mary cried out, watching him. "He's flown into the orchard! He's flown across the other wall into the garden where there's no door." "He lives there," said old Ben. "He come out of the egg there. If he's courting, he's making up to some young madam of a Robin that lives among the old rose trees there." "Rose trees?" said Mary. "Are there rose trees?" Ben Weatherstaff took up his spade again and began to dig. "There was 10 years ago," he answered. "I should like to see them," said Mary. "Where is the green door? There must be a door somewhere." Ben drove his spade deep and looked as uncompanionable as he had looked when she first saw him. "There was 10 years ago, but there isn't now," he said. "Nor door?" cried Mary. "There must be." "None as anyone can find, and none as anyone's business. Don't you be a meddlesome wench and poke your nose where it's no cause to go. Here, I must get on with my work. Get you gone and play, you. I've no more time." And he actually stopped digging, threw his spade over his shoulder, and walked out, without even glancing at her or saying goodbye. So when she brought up the secret garden, he gets all weird. He doesn't want to tell her anything, and he actually walks away.